Coming up on this episode of LFD On Call, mental health for firefighters is just as important as physical health. We take a look at how the department is responding to this challenge. In this episode's Chief's Corner, firefighters learn skills and techniques in case they are called upon to deliver a baby. LFD has acquired drones thanks to the Lakeville Public Safety Foundation. Find out how they're putting them to use. Assistant Fire Chief Todd Sellner assists with the latest edition of Ask a Firefighter. And department training looks at how to control flames and smoke to direct how a fire moves throughout a building. All of this on this episode of LFD On Call.
I'm going to be talking about post-traumatic stress disorder and how that can affect anybody, not just firefighters, but police, first responders, and then also some information about how their spouses might be able to identify if there's a problem and how to get their partners some help. Not just first responder firefighters, but first responders, police, they may think that they've got that incident packed away really well, and then something will come up like that. So they might notice that they're feeling different. They might be checked out, they might be more angry, they might not be sleeping as well or having nightmares. They might be drinking more, just doing things that are really not in character for them. And they might be avoiding dealing with things. A lot of times men avoid getting help. And so that's another big reason why we wanted spouses to be here tonight. If you're raised by a parent who has PTSD, then that their lens is passed along to you as a child. Again, mental health in general, when you have any kind of public safety worker who's supposed to be helping people, if they're not doing well, they're not able to help people in their best way. They may start making mistakes, they may act aggressively, so there may be something that if they're not taking care of how they're doing, they're not performing their job in the way that they should be. It still tends to be harder for men to step forward and saying they're having a tough time. Women have a much easier time going to therapy and saying that they're struggling. So there's definitely a stigma with men, and I do think it's getting better, but we still have a long way to go. Mostly, I'm going to talk about ways that they can have a conversation with their partner about that and talk about how they're concerned, offer to get them some help, offer them to be taking care of themselves, and some very specific resources that they could use.
For over a century, fire engines have been a symbol of the unique capabilities a fire department possesses to keep citizens and property safe. But as time passes, new tools arrive, adding a whole new dimension to public safety.
We saw that there's a capability and needs that we could put out there as far as if we're at a scene for a fire investigation.
Drones have been making a buzz in the film world for a few years now, but their ability to give a bird's eye view has caught the attention of the public safety sector.
So we can look at a scene and say, here's what we're seeing, and use that from our investigation standpoint.
Drones can be used to create 3D maps to help in advanced preparation. The added mobility also allows firefighters to carry and drop helpful tools, like life jackets, to those in danger. But one of the most intriguing uses is for search and rescue operations.
We have somebody that goes into a cornfield as the example that we can put a drone up and quickly do a search and cut our time down to hopefully successfully find that person versus get a lot of bodies and do a search.
But a drone, along with the heat mapping FLIR camera, is an expensive piece of equipment. So the Lakeville Fire Department had to get help with funding. Enter the Lakeville Public Safety Foundation.
We're here tonight accepting a donation from the Lakeville Public Safety Foundation for the drone that you see in front of us and also training that was included with the grant application.
It's just been a number of years since the foundation has existed, but even in that amount of time, there's a lot of support that's been provided, and I'm sure will continue to be.
With the new tools acquired, LFD firefighters had to learn how to use them.
So we're going through everything from airspace and flying on manned aircraft to where we can and cannot fly in parks and cities.
The department signed up for a lesson with Dart drones, where they learned everything they needed to know to pass the Part 107 Unmanned Aircraft Licensing Exam. Instructor Christina Martinez also provided some hands-on training with the drones.
They'll have them in a truck ready to go, and they can use them to help them help our citizens that much quicker and more safely in their day-to-day operations.
After passing the Part 107 exam, Lakeville firefighters are all systems go to deploy their latest public safety tool. Good old-fashioned fire trucks aren't going away anytime soon, but when it comes to the capabilities of the next generation of public safety, the sky is the limit.
What you can use them for is only limited by your imagination.
In this episode's Chief's Corner, firefighters learn skills and techniques in case they are called upon to deliver a baby.
They'll test you, try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
Welcome to another edition of Chief Corner. I'm Fire Chief Mike Meyer, and today I'm joined by Patty from Alina. Welcome, Patty.
Hi, Mike. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So today we're covering a little bit of EMT refreshers.
Every 2 years, the EMTs on our fire departments or police departments need to go through 20 hours of training. And basically what it is just kind of a refresher of the skills that they've learned from the very beginning. It might be learning how to assess a patient, if it's a medical scenario or a trauma scenario. Also what type of treatments they might have to do dependent on what's going on with that patient. We cover tourniquets to have them understand how to control bleeding in a worst case scenario. And then the opposite end of that is we can be training in OB, in which we actually did today. So sometimes they might have that scenario where they're going to have to deliver a baby, and we all know babies don't wait. So this is a good topic for us to review every 2 years as well.
Okay, so today was specifically about OB, baby delivery. So
Yes.
a little bit about that as far as how is that different from hospital care? So
Okay.
obviously it's in the home or potentially in the back of the ambulance. So how does that work for training for EMTs?
It makes it very interesting because, yes, we don't have the hospital with lots of people there to help or the great lighting. You might be in the back seat of a vehicle, or you might be in somebody's residence, or like you said, even in the back of the ambulance. So we're kind of starting off with, okay, how do we get control of this and make this happen the right way? All of our vehicles with the fire department, the police officers, and the medics have OB kits where it has all the necessary equipment for you to be able to successfully deliver a baby. So then we actually have a simulation mannequin. We go through what a nice normal delivery would look like, those questions you want to ask the mom to make sure that, yes, she is going to deliver and we have to do it here. And then we also talk about taking care of the baby after the delivery, maybe some complications that could occur and how to correct those situations. So it really opens up a door that making you prepared for anything you might encounter.
Excellent. And about, everybody thinks it's scary for delivering a baby, so the complications are kind of a rarity, or they're known in advance as far as that mom or family, they know that something's happening as far as that their pregnancy from day one, so to speak, they know that there's some issues going on. So we kind of know that if we ask those questions, correct?
Yes, that is correct. And a lot of times physicians are very good that if a mom is having complications or they suspect there might be some during the delivery, the physician will actually have her in hospital close to the due date so that they can really have control of the situation no matter what would happen. When you arrive at a scene, there's a list of questions we ask, and one of those is this, have you had prenatal care, and is there any complications? Because that way we might just decide to at least try and get into the ambulance and get the person to the hospital, but also call ahead to the physician that's been treating that patient. So, Mike, I hear that you recently had to utilize some of your training, at the fire department in Lakeville. specifically your OB training. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about that? You were recently involved in a baby delivery.
Yep, it was 2 weeks ago, I believe, on a Thursday evening when we were having a snowstorm. Responded to, obviously, a pregnancy call. Arrive on scene, I was in my neighborhood that I live in, so obviously I was pretty quick to get there with the police officers. Found mom that, delivery was imminent as far as that she was presenting. There was there was no decision to be made as far as if we were going to load and go. It was, we're going to deliver there in the bedroom. So we kind of, training-wise, we had just gone through department training on OB besides what we did here today. So everything kind of clicked, and it was actually from the birth of the baby, as far as that, everything was so fast that your training kicked in. There was no really having to worry about thinking about what do I have to do, because training-wise it just kicks in for that. So we helped deliver a baby girl at 8:15 that evening. Fortunately for us, mom was a delivery nurse, OB nurse, so that really helped. As once the baby was delivered, we did our procedures as far as scoring the baby, as far as appearance, APGAR scoring, and then mom really took over as far as telling us what she wanted for care of the baby. And then after everything kind of settled down from the point of delivery, is that we loaded her into the ambulance and she was transported to the hospital to be seen further, obviously, for the delivery of the baby.
Excellent. Well, congratulations.
Well,
I think a Stork Award is in is in your near future, which is really great. Have you delivered a baby before?
That was my first true delivery in 22 years of doing that. And I'll say, the one thing I'll say is that it's not just me. We had the, line of medics were there, the police officers, so we were all working as a team and going through the delivery. I just happened to be the one that was there to help deliver the baby, as far as catching the baby, so to speak. And then everybody was supplying the materials, that the OB kit, opening that up and giving me the materials that we needed. So it wasn't just me, it's a team effort for all of us to be there and to make that happen.
Excellent. Yeah, there's many people, paramedics, firefighters, even police, that go through their careers and never deliver a baby. So huge congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Patty, for providing training today and being a part of Chief's Corner today.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always great to spend time with you guys. So call us again soon.
Coming up, Assistant Fire Chief Todd Sellner assists with the latest edition of Ask a Firefighter. And department training looks at how to control flames and smoke to direct how a fire moves throughout a building.
Check your boat, trailer, and gear for aquatic invasive species before leaving the access. It's the law. Clean off plants, animals, and mud. Drain your boat, live well, and bait containers, and leave plugs out while traveling. Rinse boat, live well, and gear with hot water. Spray with high pressure, or dry for at least 5 days.
I'm doing my part to protect our lakes. Hi, I'm Todd Sellner, Assistant Chief, Lakeville Fire Department. On this segment of Ask the Firefighter, Heather from Lakeville asked, how often do we train and what kind of training do we do as a fire department? So Heather, Lakeville has 86 volunteer firefighters. We train at least twice a month, and the different types of training we do are search and rescue, hazmat, auto extrication, live fire training. We do a multitude of trainings throughout the year. Some of them are required, some are optional, and whenever we get the opportunity for a new piece of equipment or something new to train on within the city, we would take advantage of that. So our training sessions are usually about 3 hours long, usually on Monday nights, and each station may hold their own, or we'll combine stations when we do a group type training. So in addition to also doing training at our own stations, we do have a remote building that we do our live burns at, which is in Burnsville, which is a combination of Apple Valley, Burnsville, Lakeville, and Eagan fire departments. We all share the resource, and that's where we do our live fire training. So on the nights we do live fire, we have to go to Burnsville to conduct that training. And in tonight's training, Schmitty's and Sons was nice enough to bring, they've got an all-electric bus that they've purchased and started using, so we're going to do some training on it as far as how hazardous it could be with all batteries on it and no fuel. The hazards with it would be the batteries. They generally do not start on fire in any type of accident, but just in case they do start on fire, it's going to be a good opportunity for our firefighters to learn on what to do if they do. So as far as the electrical hazard, it's the same on the bus as it would be on any electric or hybrid vehicle. There are high voltage lines on it which are orange, and it's easy for us to avoid them, but there's also a main shutoff switch where the firefighters will be trained on where to disengage the power on this vehicle.
Just flip this down, and there's a lockout right here.
So it's very important for us to get the training on these electric and hybrid vehicles, because as you've probably read and seen on TV, there's more and more vehicles being released and made, school buses, cars, semis now, all kinds of vehicles that are either all electric or hybrid. So it's important for us to understand the hazards of these vehicles. So thanks for the question, Heather. Hopefully that answered what you were looking for as far as how often and what kind of training our firefighters do.
We went through a burning on a dollhouse, we'll call it, and tell us a little bit about what we were trying to accomplish or demonstrate.
So we built the dollhouse for a couple reasons. It helps the firefighters. We can understand what we'll see with volume of smoke when we arrive on a scene, how opening and closing doors help us extinguish a fire or at least control the fire. And it also, we could use it for the citizens. They can see in their own homes how if they close their doors, keep their doors closed, they can either contain a fire to a single room or even possibly snuff it out before it even gets too big.
So tell me a little bit about what we're doing with the slides or the doors on the house as far as we are opening and closing those throughout the burn.
So the goal was we start the fire in the one room to simulate a room and contents fire, and then let that grow within that room, and by opening the doors then we allow the heat into the adjoining rooms, and eventually by opening and closing all the doors you get the heat throughout the house, and you can ignite the different rooms just by opening them, and it shows how the smoke is the fuel. It's not necessarily the wood for the walls, it's the smoke and the heat that's causing the fire.
One of the things that we noticed that when we had like door 1 kind of cracked open and we'd open the door 3, if you will, that was on the second floor, that we'd see the smoke actually start on fire. Tell me a little bit why that was happening.
Well, the smoke is the fuel, the smoke and the heat, and when you give it the right amount of oxygen by opening another door, it allows it to ignite and then start to burn. So.
Okay, and this is a change in as far from what we've seen when we started in the fire service, that we were always taught to ventilate before we enter, and now this training kind of demonstrates the opposite of that.
Right, yeah, when we got on, it's like you were taught to basically open every window, break every window as you get on scene to a fire. And nowadays it's like we want to try to minimize any opening, so keep all windows closed, all doors closed, until we're ready to, extinguish it with water, and it helps minimize the amount of fire that's in the house.
So is that, I guess, is that change in our strategy, is that a change in the way the houses are being built today versus 20 years ago?
It is. The houses nowadays are more airtight, and it also the fuel loads are different. The furniture, the rugs, all that stuff gives off much more dangerous gases than it used to, and the structure itself, it doesn't have the integrity that the houses from 30, 40 years ago did. It's like today they'll burn and the structure gets weakened much more quicker because of how they're built.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and thanks for explaining what we did for training today.
Thank you.